I never imagined that a single act of cruelty could be the start of a life-changing friendship. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension as I walked into the cafeteria, the sound of laughter and clattering trays echoing around me. My heart raced, the fluorescent lights buzzing above like a swarm of angry bees. I could feel the stares piercing through me, heavy and judgmental. Then it happened. I was just trying to find a place to sit when Amanda, the queen bee of our grade, launched her lunch tray at me, food splattering everywhere, a crimson sauce staining my shirt like a badge of humiliation. Gasps echoed around the room, curious whispers danced from table to table. It was as if time slowed, their eyes boring into my soul. I could feel the heat creeping up from my chest to my cheeks, tears threatening to spill. I wanted to disappear, but then she appeared. A silhouette breaking through the crowd. Lena. Her green eyes were sharp like emeralds, filled with defiance. She stepped forward, her voice cutting through the gasps. Leave her alone. It was fierce and surprising. I didn't even know she knew my name. Lena had always been a mystery. The girl who wore oversized hoodies and spoke rarely. Rumors circled like vultures. They said she was troubled, maybe even dangerous. But in that moment, as Amanda backed off, her eyes narrowed in confusion, I felt a connection form. Something inexplicable was sparking between us. In a cafeteria full of judgment, Lena stood beside the freak. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice dropping a notch. It was raw, softer now. I blinked, my brain still fumbling to process everything. "Yeah, I think so." But I didn't. My chest tightened, a knot of confusion in my gut. With a fierce glare that could silence a storm, she turned to the crowd. "Anyone else want to try?" Her challenge hung there in the air, thick and heavy. It was breathtaking. As the murmurs quieted, it struck me that I had never really noticed her before, the tattoos blooming like art on her arms, the chains hanging from her pants, the confident swagger. I was drawn in. I felt a stirring of something unexpected, something hopeful, weaving through the hurt that had just freshly spilled all over me. "Come on," she said, pulling me from my thoughts. "Let's get out of here." Her hand found mine, warm and reassuring. I followed her, heart racing, pulse pounding. What if this was the beginning of something? And what if it was also the start of a spiral into chaos? We slipped out of the cafeteria, the noise fading into a muffled hum behind us. My thoughts raced as we crossed the corridor, curiosity creeping closer. I didn't know where we were headed or why I was following, but something deep inside felt undeniably alive. I knew this moment was going to change everything, and as Lena turned to look at me, a new twisted uncertainty gripped my heart. What lay ahead? What darkness lurked beneath the surface? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The hallway was dim as we slipped away from the cafeteria chaos. I could hear the whispers trailing behind us, a murmured blend of curiosity and judgment. But as Lena pulled me through a side door, we found ourselves in an empty stairwell, a sacred little corner where the world felt distant. "Are you really okay?" she asked, pinning me with those intense green eyes. Her voice softened in the stillness, and I felt my heart flutter with both fear and gratitude. It was strange, the way her concern cut through my muddled thoughts like a warm knife through butter. "I'm not sure," I replied, unsure of how to articulate the whirling storm within me. "Everything just happened so fast." "Yeah," she mused, glancing upwards toward the ceiling, lost in her own thoughts for a second. "People are cruel, but they don't know you. They don't care to understand." I folded my arms, trying to shield myself from the memories of those stinging laughs and curious eyes. It was easier to deflect the emotion, to put up walls, but here, with Lena, I found a flicker of bravery rising in me. "Why did you stand up for me?" I blurted out, her gaze anchored back to mine, fierce and unwavering. "Because someone had to. I couldn't just let them bully you. No one deserves that." My heart swelled, and the bond between us felt real, undeniable. For all her rough edges, there was a warmth to Lena that drew me closer like a moth to a flame. I couldn't help but wonder what had made her into this fierce protector. What battles had she fought on her own? But before I could ask, an alarming noise shattered the moment. A door slammed open on the floor above us, followed by the discordant chatter of students, re-entering their routines. Lena's expression shifted. "Come on," she said, pulling me away from the stairwell. "Let's go somewhere else." We stepped into the sun-soaked evening, the sky a blazing orange as the sun melted into the horizon. Lena guided me through a hidden path, leading to a small park tucked behind the school. The flowers swayed gently, and the air felt charged with possibility. As we settled onto a weathered wooden bench, my initial apprehension began to melt away. I breathed in the scent of grass and flowers, a stark contrast to the stress of the school day. It was beautiful here, a secret oasis amidst the turbulence. "What do you like to do?" Lena broke the silent spell, leaning back and tossing a small pebble into the nearby pond. "Besides dodge food fights, I mean that I like to sketch," I admitted, feeling vulnerable as I spoke. "It helps me escape, I guess. I draw the things I wish I could be." "Like what?" She prodded. "Anything but this," I replied, gesturing to myself with a shaky laugh. "I draw girls who are brave and strong, beautiful places." "Life outside of this high school hell," Lena smirked, her fierce demeanor softening. "Well, you've got me as a muse now." "What would you draw?" Caught off guard, I smiled. "Probably a girl saving another girl from a dragon or something," I teased, but there was always a hint of wistfulness in my tone. She chuckled, a sound like music to my ears, and it broke down more walls between us. "Let's make a list of all the dragons we need to slay," and just like that, laughter began to erode the shadows of the day, carving out a tiny sanctuary for our budding friendship. But beneath the lightheartedness, I couldn't shake the lingering unease. The image of Amanda's face flashed in my mind, her venomous glare, the way she humiliated me without a second thought. What would she do when she realized I had a fierce ally now? As the dusk deepened, something else tightened in my gut, a secret I hadn't revealed to anyone but imagined would come crashing down on me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, the screen lighting up with a message. I hesitated, glancing at Lena, who was lost in her thoughts. I unlocked my phone, heart racing as the message appeared. It was from my older brother. "We need to talk. Mom found something." I sucked in a breath, dread flooding my veins. What had she found? What explosive secret of mine was about to tear everything apart? I looked up at Lena, in that moment feeling more vulnerable than ever. What if sharing my truth with her meant letting her down, or worse, pushing her away? "Are you okay?" Lena's voice pulled me back, but I was lost in a storm of thoughts. The weight of the past threatened to drown me, and I worried that I might pull her down with me. "Yeah, it's nothing," I lied, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. The shadows stretched across the grass as night began to blanket the park. But in that moment, I painted a picture in my mind that I'd have to uphold. Yet, the clarity of our newfound connection, the first signs of friendship, was at once comforting and terrifying as I clung to it like a lifeline. Something had begun, but there was a cost to secrets, and mine felt unbearably heavy. As Lena turned to me, a look of unspoken concern in her eyes, I was left wondering whether this beautiful beginning would endure the oncoming storm. The park dimmed further as the evening faded into night, casting shadows that danced like whispers around us. Despite the warmth of Lena's presence, a cold grip of anxiety wove through my chest, tightening with each passing moment. My brother's message echoed ominously in my mind, an impending storm that threatened to break over our fragile connection. "Maybe we should head back," Lena offered, sensing my distraction. "It's getting late." I nodded, but the thought of returning to the chaos of adolescence felt suffocating, like a broken cage that I'd have to re-enter. "Can we stay a little longer?" A flicker of surprise flitted across her face, but she kept her tone light. "Sure, as long as you promise not to fall asleep on me." I'm pretty sure I'd lose all my street cred if I was seen carrying you out of here. A small smile tugged at the corners of my lips. I promise. No napping just yet. We fell into a silence that was comfortable, one that allowed my mind to wander. I leaned back against the bench, taking in the first stars peeking through the darkness. It was funny how I could laugh with her one moment and then feel utterly trapped the next, both exhilarated and terrified of what was blossoming between us. Tell me about your family, Lena prompted, breaking the silence again that I hesitated, battling an internal war. What could I share? The safety of my sketches or our shared laughter felt worlds apart from the reality of my home life. But Lena's earnest curiosity nudged me forward. It's just me and my brother, I explained cautiously. We take care of each other, but it's not always easy. Her eyes softened as she listened. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, gauging the distance between my truth and her perception. Our mom, she's going through a lot. She's just different now. Lena nodded solemnly, her own expression reflective. Different how? Glimmers of my past flared with each word I contemplated, memories mixing with the dread of what lay ahead. She's struggling with her health. I don't want to get into it. I forced a wave of amusement into my tone. She can get a bit dramatic, like something out of a soap opera. It's hard to know how to deal with it. Lena's brow furrowed with concern. That sounds really tough. You don't have to go through it alone, you know. The sincerity in her offer made something inside me break just a little. But the clouds of my reality loomed large. It's complicated, I murmured, biting my lip. I can't burden you with my problems. Hey, she said, leaning forward, eyes fierce once more. What kind of friend would I be if I let you carry that alone? The warmth of her words was an anchor in the chaos I felt swirling inside. But I still felt unworthy of that friendship, like I had latched onto a fading dream that would soon turn into a nightmare. We're still figuring things out, Lena. I don't want to mess this up. Mess what up? She replied, tilting her head inquisitively. We're just getting to know each other, but deep in my heart, I knew this connection was like teetering on the brink of a cliff. One false step could lead to disaster. Exactly, I started, but the sudden buzz of my phone cut me off again. I fished it from my pocket, my heart dropping when I saw a second message from my brother. It's about why Mom's been acting strange. I think she's hiding something from us. A shiver ran through me, freezing me in place. What could possibly make sense of this? I focused on the screen, feeling the world around me recede as fear clamped down tighter. Hey, you good? Lena asked, her voice filling the void. The concern etched into her features made my heart swell with an uneasy warmth. Yeah, I lied again, quickly tucking my phone away, shaking my head as if to dislodge the dreadful thoughts. You were right, time to head back, I guess. She didn't seem convinced but stood, and I followed her lead, moving through the cool night air. The enchanting spark of our connection had dimmed, overshadowed by shadows of my hidden life. I could feel Lena giving me a sidelong glance as we walked. Something told me she sensed the unspoken barrier I had erected, a fortress built from secrets. As we approached the school, the fluorescent lights flickering ominously like the echoes of my dread, my mind raced. How could I ever explain to her, to anyone, the maelstrom of confusion that churned within me? And what would happen if I did? The unknown felt heavier than ever. We stepped through the front doors and into the well-worn hallways, the tension thick enough to slice through. I glanced back at Lena, wishing more than anything that I could muster the courage to tell her everything. She caught my gaze and smiled, a soft, radiant spark in the midst of darkness. And as the night wore on, a disconcerting thought gripped me. Would our friendship survive the storm that was about to break? When the truth came out, would she still see me the same way, or would it shatter everything I had come to cherish in this unexpected bond? Suddenly, I felt as though I was spiraling toward an abyss, making the ground of my fragile new reality crumble beneath my feet, and what lay ahead seemed more complex than anything I had ever faced before. The days that followed felt like I was suspended in a hazy dream, where moments flickered in and out of clarity. Each morning, I donned a mask of normalcy, pretending not to see the echoes of my brother's message still looming heavy in the corners of my mind. My interactions with Lena became a delicate dance, one where I was hyper-aware of how close we were, yet terrified of toppling over the edge. Track practice had become our refuge. Those hours spent running alongside her were both liberating and suffocating. The rhythm of our footsteps felt like a heartbeat, pulsing with promise and filled with an unspoken tension. And every laugh she shared was balm for my aching soul, even as my thoughts spiraled deeper into the unknown point one afternoon. While inhaling the scent of freshly cut grass, I reached inside my backpack, trying to grasp the courage I needed to share more about my reality. Lena had just crossed the finish line with the grace of a gazelle, her laughter ringing clear, unhindered by the weight that clung to my heart. Did you see that? I think I might actually break my personal best, she exclaimed, brushing the sheen of sweat from her brow, her face aglow with victory. That was amazing. You really killed it, I responded, forcing enthusiasm into my voice even though my heart felt weighed down. As the sun dipped behind the bleachers, a whisper of anxiety traveled through me. This was the moment me chanced to finally reveal my darkness, to seek solace in her understanding. But as Lena chatted about plans for the upcoming weekend, my courage faltered, slipping through my fingers like sand. Then during the warm down, as we lay on the field, watching the clouds drift lazily across the sky, I felt an unexpected jolt. A girl from our class, Michelle, arrived with a group of her friends, their laughter ringing sharp and slicing through the warm haze that enveloped us. Look. The losers are catching some rays, Michelle sneered, her tone dripping with disdain. Her friends snickered behind her, eyes glinting with malicious amusement. Lena shot up to her feet defensively, her hair falling over her shoulders like a fiery shield. What's your problem, Michelle? I just thought it was sad, you know? Two outcasts at the bottom of the food chain, Michelle retorted, her voice taunting, venom laced in every word. You both should really find some real friends. My heart plummeted into despair, and I felt the familiar heat of shame flooding my cheeks. I wanted to disappear, wanted to crawl inside my own skin and let the world pass me by. Lena stood her ground, her expression a mixture of anger and empathy, eyes darting to mine, searching for reassurance. That I felt paralyzed, trapped between wanting to shield Lena from the cruel jokes and wishing I could crawl into the darkest corner of the field. It stung more than I anticipated, like a needle piercing the fragile understanding we had started to weave. Why do you even care? Lena shot back fiercely. Get a life, Michelle. The confrontation seemed to hang in the air, weighing heavily on my chest. A moment stretched too long, and despite my resolve, adrenaline coursing through my veins made me feel alive in ways that were frightening. Once Michelle and her crew left, the air felt thick with unspoken tension. Alone again, the shadows crept back into our sanctuary. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, Lena, I murmured, feeling guilty for having let her be the brave one. To my surprise, she plopped down beside me, a determined glint in her eyes. Are you kidding? I would have jumped in front of a bus for you. They're just cruel because they're lonely. Does it even matter? My voice fell flat, like stones hitting the bottom of a deep lake. We're still at the bottom, and it feels like no one cares. Don't say that, she insisted, squeezing my shoulder with fierce tenderness. I care. And I might just be enough reason to keep climbing. Just then, my phone buzzed again, pulling me away from the moment. A quick glance at the screen froze my breath in my throat. My brother had sent another message. I spoke to Mom. She's been acting out. I'm worried she's hiding something we can't ignore. Panic surged through me, followed by an intense wave of fear. What on earth could it mean? My mind raced, the edges of reality blurring around me. Everything okay? Lena asked, concern crinkling her brow as her eyes flicked to the phone in my hand. Yeah, I need a moment, I mumbled, wrestling with the tumult inside me. Talk to me. You don't have to carry it all, she urged gently, her voice a soft anchor amid my rising tide of thoughts. Could I really lean on her? Could I let her see the disarray of my life? The weight of my unexplained secrets hung over us, threatening to erode the bond we had begun to forge. As we sat there under the fading orange glow of the sunset, the world around us quieting down, I realized that I stood at yet another precipice. And I was terrified of either stepping back into the shadows or taking a leap into Lena's waiting light. Just then, my phone buzzed again, the looming darkness clashing with the flicker of hope Lena represented. But this time, it wasn't my brother's name that flashed on the screen. A new message waited, one I never expected. I found something that might explain everything. Meet me tonight. The words echoed through me, leaving a chilling realization. the storm I feared was not just on the horizon, it was already here, and I was at the center. The sunlight faded into a twilight hue, casting long shadows across the field as chaos bloomed within me. Lena's comforting presence felt like a lifeline, yet the weight of that unexpected message gripped me tighter than ever. I wrestled with the desire to confide in her, to share my burdens, but fear clawed at my insides. What if this new twist turned even the small, fragile connection we had into dust? I have to go, I said abruptly, my voice barely above a whisper, the urgency clear in my tone. Lena's eyebrows knitted together in concern. Go where? What's going on? I could feel the tension coil between us, thick and palpable. A part of me longed to explain, to pull her into my world where fears lurked like shadows. The other part felt that doing so could shatter the delicate facade of normalcy I had built around us. I stood, heart racing, fighting against the gnawing unease down to my core. Just something important, I stammered, backing away instinctively. I'll talk to you later, wait. She sprang to her feet, urgency lacing her voice. The spark of desperation in her eyes made it harder to leave. What's really happening? You can trust me. Tears threatened to brim as I shook my head and turned away, my footsteps heavy against the grass. I didn't dare look back, fearing the resolute warmth of her gaze would crumble my resolve and expose everything I was trying to hide. As I sped walk toward home, the world blurred with the passing people and fading light. The message from my brother replayed in my mind, nagging insistently. What had my mother been hiding? My heart pounded with uncertainty because every answer felt like it could ignite the already unstable ground on which my life precariously stood. I reached home and slammed the door shut, the sound reverberating through the emptiness of the house. My brother was waiting in the dimly lit kitchen, his face a mask of concern as he looked up from a pile of papers sprawled across the table. Hey. He spoke softly, cautiously, as if he were treading on fragile ground. Hey. I replied, my voice a hollow echo as I grabbed a chair, needing to steady myself. What's all this? I gestured to the papers, hoping to divert the conversation. Research, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. About Mom. My heart sank deeper. And, he took a deep breath, eyes darting away. She's been different. I found some notes, things she doesn't talk about. I think we need to confront her. Confront her? Panic seized me as I imagined sitting across the dinner table, the air thick with tension, awaiting a revelation that could define every thread of our lives. What if it blows up in our faces? She's fragile, and so are we. I know, he replied, his voice shadowed with fear. But we can't keep pretending everything is fine. She's not fine, and you know it. My thoughts raced back to the storm that brewed in my mind, the secrets of our past bubbling just below the surface. Did my brother truly understand the potential fallout? I wanted to scream, no, what if revealing these hidden truths tears our family apart? But looking at him so earnest and determined, I felt the tug of loyalty and the pull of his urgency. So what did you find? His hesitance grew palpable. He sifted through the papers, fumbling briefly before revealing a crumpled document. It's a report about her therapy sessions, he said, holding it out like a fragile treasure. My stomach twisted. The realization crashed over me, heavy and cold. My mother had sought help without telling us. Questions tumbled through my mind like a chaotic storm. Why hadn't she confided in us? What deep-rooted pain would we uncover? As I reached for the paper, my phone buzzed in my pocket again. My heart skittered. I fished it out. It was a notification. Lena had sent me a text. Please, don't shut me out. I want to help. The message felt like a lifeline thrown into the darkness. Yet here I was, caught in a whirlwind of family secrets and burgeoning feelings for a girl who may never know the complete truth of my life. Do you want to read it? My brother asked, his voice pulling me from my thoughts. A mix of anxiety and hope etched in his features. I stared between him and the phone, caught by the weight of all that was spiraling around us. A rift was forming. I could choose either to confide in them or turn my back, hiding from the world with the shadows that threatened to swallow me whole. Then another message pinged in, illuminating the screen. Whatever it is, I can handle it, a potential revelation from Lena that could define everything or lead to more chaos. I felt tethered between the two realms, me brother waiting for answers and Lena reaching out, both beckoning me to dive into a deeper truth. But how could I trust that truth wouldn't bury us in its darkness? The air was thick with dread and anticipation, and I sat frozen at the crossroads, my heart racing for two paths that preyed on my vulnerability. If I took one step, I could lose Lena's trust forever, and if I took the other, I risked exposing wounds that might never heal. And as I finally looked down at the crumpled paper in my hands, the magnitude of my decision pressed heavily upon me, the shadows of the past closing in. Would I confront the pain, or would I let it consume us all? The air in the kitchen felt suffocating, heavy with unspoken truths that clung to my skin. My brother's eyes held a mixture of hope and fear, a reflection of my own turmoil. I folded the crumpled paper back and forth, averting my gaze, as though avoiding the contents could buy me a moment's peace. But denial was a mirage. It vanished with each heartbeat, suffocating like an invisible weight upon my chest. Do you think she'll tell us? I finally asked, my voice drowning in uncertainty. About the therapy. My brother pinched the bridge of his nose, wrestling the knots of his own frustration. I don't know. But I just feel it's wrong to let this continue without knowing what's happening. We deserve to understand what's going on with our mom. What if she's embarrassed? My words dripped with apprehension. What if we push her and she shuts us out even more? The thought of losing her, of her retreating into a silence thicker than the walls that enclosed us, felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Then we prove to her we're not going to judge. Well, meet her with love. Remember how she always says we've got each other's backs? He paused, looking directly into my eyes. This is our chance to step up for her. My heart raced, the weight of my brother's words striking a chord, yet dread wrapped around me like a shroud. In my mind, I saw the ghost of my mother, the way her laughter felt muted in recent months, how her bright smile had become a mere echo of something once vibrant. I longed for the return of those moments, but the abyss of what lay ahead terrified me. Before I could reply, my phone buzzed again, startling me. I glanced down to see yet another message from Lena. I'm still here. Please let me in. The urgency in her words sent a shiver down my spine, igniting a longing to reach out to her. Yet, I couldn't face either of them fully, knowing both Lena and my brother had the capacity to hold my fractured self, but the thought of doing so left me reeling. As if sensing my struggle, my brother pulled a chair closer, shifting our dynamic in that moment, making it feel as if we were allies in a mission. Let's start by showing her we're there for her. You bring her some flowers. I'll work on a letter, something to show her she can trust us. His instinct to nurture our mother sparked a flicker of determination in my chest. All right, I replied hesitantly, tapping out a quick response to Lena, hoping to hide the storm brewing within. I'll see you later. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside, thankful for the cool air that brushed against my skin. The evening was beginning to drape the world in darkness, and as I wandered toward the nearby florist, I felt the familiar weight of the unresolved secrets weighing heavily on my heart. The sweet scent of the flowers enveloped me, momentarily lifting my spirits. I chose pale pink roses, delicate, resilient, a whisper of the warmth I desperately wanted to return to our home. Yet as I paid for the flowers, a pang of guilt stabbed through me. Would a bouquet dismiss the realities? Would it mask the deeper pain lurking beneath the surface? Returning home, I found my brother tucked away in his room, scribbling furiously, his determination a beacon of hope even as I clutched the flowers in trembling hands. Here, I said, offering him a single rosy, a small gesture, but one meant to bond us in our renewed efforts to confront the truths we feared. Let's do this together. As we knelt in the kitchen, penning our lines of heartfelt warmth, my phone buzzed again, this time fusing my heart in knots. A video call from Lena. Panic coursed through my veins. I hesitated, glancing at my brother. Should I talk to her? He encouraged with a gentle smile. Nothing to fear in being honest, heart pounding. I clicked the video and felt the warmth of Lena's face light up my screen as she cheerfully greeted me, but I could see the flicker of concern threaded in her bright eyes. Hey. You okay? You've been quiet, she said, genuine worry softening her voice. The weight of unuttered confessions pressed on my lips, yet words crumbled. I was just dealing with some Family stuff, I managed, the depth of my tone betraying the walls I struggled to maintain. That I am here if you need to talk, she said, her eyes unwavering. That kindness, that sweet sincerity wrapped around me, contrasting the tension that lingered with my brother's presence in the other room. You can share anything with me. We have each other, remember? Her words echoed deep within me, situated between my need for connection and the instinct to seal away my feelings. I dared not admit the unsettling thoughts about what might lie beneath the surface of my mother's struggles, the fear of dragging Lena into our family's tangled web. But just as hope glimmered, Lena's face turned serious. Listen, I know something's up, and I care about you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, let me help. My heart sank further as my mind raced to comprehend the revelations lurking in the shadows. Could I drag her into this chaotic world? I appreciate it, really, I heard myself say, but as I opened my mouth to reveal my deepest fears, the call suddenly froze. A glitch, a moment of disconnection just as I was teetering on the edge of revelation. The screen turned black, and dread settled like a heavy curtain dropping in a theater, cutting off the light, leaving me in the throes of uncertainty. My phone buzzed repeatedly, the connection lost, but the questions surged once more. Had I missed my chance to open up, or more fundamentally, could I truly face the daunting task ahead, confronting the truth about my mother while welcoming Lena into my fractured life? I felt a storm brewing deep within, whispers wrapping around me, imploring me to make a choice, one that could unravel all I believed to be solid. And as I sat there with roses wilting in my hands and my brother's hope surrounding us in the air, I finally realized choosing to face our reality could very well mean surrendering not only to the truth but to the possibility of love woven in the unlikeliest of friendships. But would I dare step into that uncertain light? Would I unravel, or would I allow my heart to guide me through the chaos? In that moment of reflection, the shadows whispered treacherous secrets yet to come, churning beneath the surface as if daring me to choose. The silence in the kitchen was deafening, punctuated only by the steady ticking of the clock overhead as the battle between heart and mind raged within me. Lifting my phone, I swiped at the screen, my pulse quickening with every attempt to reconnect with Lena. What had just felt like a mere communication lapse now loomed over me like a storm waiting to break. With each silent moment, I felt the walls closing in a tightening grip reminiscent of the feelings I had spent so long suppressing. My brother's voice broke through the haze. Do you want to talk about it? He asked, his sincerity disarming me momentarily. The warmth in his gaze reminded me that I wasn't alone, even if the fear of transparency weighed heavily upon my chest. I glanced back down at my phone, still dark, and shook my head, feeling a wave of shame wash over me. I don't want to drag Lena into this. The words escaped like a confession, but the truth behind them felt tangled and incomplete, just as my understanding of my own emotions was dragging her in. He echoed, a mix of concern and confusion painting his features. Can't you see? She's already in this, whether you want her to be or not. You don't have to hide. She's your friend. He rifled through the papers on the table, and I thought I saw a flicker of frustration in his eyes. Maybe it's time you let both of us in. His words lingered in the air, inviting and scaring me all at once. I wished I could unravel my heart in a fog of clarity, but it seemed the knots only tightened the more I struggled. Uneasy, I gripped the roses, then released them, the petals brushing against my fingertips, the tangible reminder of my efforts to reach out to our mother, but instead echoing the emotional distance I felt towards those I loved most. Okay, I'll try, I finally murmured, as if speaking them aloud might grant me the courage I dearly lacked. But first, I need to talk to you about Mom. He sat up straighter, focus shifting as our eyes met. What about her? I hesitated, the words crammed into my throat threatening to choke me. The therapy. If she's too embarrassed to tell us, what if she thinks we won't understand? What if the worry crawled out, tangled in regret and desire for understanding, a web that was growing tighter with every word? What if she's worse off than we think? His brow furrowed, yet there was something softening beneath his concern. You need to trust her decision to share, or not to share. And if she needs help? We have to be there for her. Yet the shadow of doubt loomed oppressively again. Despite the uncertainty swirling inside me, the flicker of hope ignited by my brother's unwavering belief slowly began to kindle a spark within. So we put our letters in her room, then? I said, trying to catch on to that ephemeral light. He nodded. And remind her we will love her no matter what. It felt simple, yet monumental, and within that small promise lay the tender beginnings of healing. Together, we penned words of courage, wrapping them in sentiments that shimmered with unconditional love. Each stroke of the pen was a deliberate defiance against the doubt that turns families. Called an act of vulnerability disguised as strength. After a while, we formed a plan. He'd take the letter to her room while I would talk to Lena. My heart ached as I prepared for the conversation ahead, wondering if my words would carry the weight of my fears or my hopes. That a few moments later, I stood in my bedroom, staring at my phone like it was a portal to potential comfort. I inhaled deeply and pressed the screen, praying that the connection would be restored. Relief washed over me as Lena's face flickered back into view, no longer clouded but brightening my room as her expression turned serious. That I am so sorry about earlier, she began, the sincerity cutting through my tension. I didn't mean to disconnect like that. You just looked overwhelmed. Yeah, sorry. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling the words rush out in a tumble. I didn't want to put my family stuff on you. I know it's a lot, but you don't have to carry it alone. I want to be here for you, she replied. Her voice unwavering, tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. I think my mom is struggling more than we realize. She hasn't opened up to us about what's going on. I felt an avalanche of emotions flood through me: fear, sorrow, and a hint of desperation clawing to escape. We don't understand what she's going through. That I can only imagine how heavy this must feel for you, she said softly, her empathy a chilling balm against my turmoil. You've held so much in. But you must also be kind to yourself. You are not in this alone. The words, though simple, unraveled a knot within me. But if I tell you everything, I found myself resisting the urge to shield her from the full weight of my fears. The possibility of barricades erected in my heart dragged me down. I'm stronger than you think, she interrupted gently, a whisper of understanding. Lena leaned forward, her expression intense yet compassionate. Sharing your burdens doesn't mean I'm helpless, it means I can stand beside you. The truth of her words wrapped around me, almost too much to bear. But just as I felt the yearning to let go, a sudden commotion blurred the edges of our conversation. A flurry of shouting from the living room reaching us, heavy with urgency. That my heart raced as I peered out into the chaos. What's happening? I whispered, panic threading through my veins. That I don't know. Is everything okay? Lena's face shifted to fear, mirroring my own. The realization of being caught in this volatile moment churned a storm inside me. Before I could respond, my brother rushed into the room, his face a ghostly white. It's Mom. You need to come now. Those 3 words shattered the moment, slashing through the tender bond I'd begun to forge. The walls quaked like a dying heartbeat, and in that instant, all my plans to heal and connect crumbled like dust. Clutching the doorframe for support, I looked back at Lena, our eyes locked in an unspoken promise of if and when. The storm had arrived, but what lay beyond was shrouded in darkness: untold stories and unshed fears that were waiting for an audience. The earth beneath me seemed to tremble as I stepped into the chaos ahead, wishing I could reach back for the light that Lena had offered one last time. Behind me, the echoes of our unfinished conversation lingered, still suspended in the air, a tantalizing thread left trailing in a world spun upside down. As I hurried after my brother, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The air was thick with panic as I followed my brother, heart pounding like a drum. My mind raced, each thought colliding into the other, struggling to make sense of this sudden upheaval. The living room was a mess of frantic bodies, and the bickering voices of my parents filled the previously silent space. I caught glimpses of my father trying to keep Mom steady, her face pale and pinched, the strain of something unnameable etched deep into her features. What's happening? I finally managed to choke out, though my voice felt small amidst the chaos. She just collapsed, my brother sputtered, eyes wide with fear. We don't know why. Some part of me was screaming to take control, to channel the chaos into something actionable, but I felt paralyzed with uncertainty. I watched helplessly as my mother was lowered onto the couch, my father's face a mask of concern as he rummaged through the drawer for her medication. As I approached, the sounds of the room began to drown into a thick, numb haze, voices blurred into white noise, their concerns and theories becoming a hum that underscored my own spiraling thoughts. I felt my brother's hand grip my shoulder tightly, anchoring me as I leaned closer to my mom. Mom? I whispered, my heart tipping dangerously as I reached for her hand. It was cool, unlike the warmth I remembered. "Mom, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, the stark realization dawning upon me that this wasn't merely a moment of illness, but rather a fracture in the facade of our family's carefully curated life. The vulnerability laid bare now threatened to overwhelm us all. "Sweetheart," she began, her voice almost a whisper, the words struggling to escape her lips. "I'm right here," I breathed, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "Please, just breathe. We're all right here." My gaze flickered to my brother and father's faces, searching for any sign of assurance, but only finding fear mirrored back at me. It was then that I saw Lena standing just outside the room's threshold, her expression a mixture of worry and determination. It was a small gesturia bolt of kindness amid the storm. Without hesitation, she took a step forward and entered the fray, ignoring the tension in the air as she wrapped her arms around my shoulders. "You're not alone," she said quietly, her warmth offering solace even through the chaos. In that moment, it struck me just how precious support could be, how a flicker of sincerity could bridge fear and despair. "Get some water," my brother shouted suddenly, breaking me from my daze. I turned to obey, the simple act forging a tangible sense of purpose. As I crossed into the kitchen, I felt a lingering sense of vulnerability, like I was teetering on the edge of some great chasm, water in hand. I returned to the living room, the sounds of worry intensifying around me. My mother had been propped up, her breathing uneven. I caught her eyes, and for a brief moment we connected in that sea of uncertainty. It was in that fleeting moment that I understood the invisible walls I had erected against vulnerability were coming down, not just for me but for her as well. "Just sip this, Mom," I urged, crouching beside her as I gently raised the glass to her lips. The worry in her eyes deepened, but beneath it flickered something softer, a glimmer of gratitude that reminded me of the love we had once shared, a love buried deep but always waiting in quiet corners of our hearts. "That's it," I encouraged, letting the tense air settle momentarily. I looked to my brother and father and saw a renewed focus as they rallied around her, the frantic energy shifting to one of nurturing and protection. Yet in my chest, the throbbing ache of fear remained. What if this was just a precursor to something worse? Minutes dragged into what felt like an eternity, and just when I thought a moment of calm might settle over us, my phone buzzed from the kitchen counter. I glanced at it and felt a knot form in my stomach as I recognized Lena's number flashing across the screen, a reminder that, despite this moment, there loomed an unfinished dialogue still haunting my steps. "Someone needs to stay with her," my brother said, urgency coloring his voice as he motioned for me to take the call. Reluctantly, I nodded, though every fiber of my being wanted to stay and remain close to my mother. "Lena, is everything okay?" I answered, heart racing. As her voice came through, it was tinged with excitement that made my pulse quicken even further. "Something incredible just happened." "You won't believe." "Please hurry," I interrupted, anxiety lacing my tone. "My mom just collapsed. I can't talk right now." The urgency in my voice silenced her mid-sentence. I could almost feel the weight of her concern seep through the phone. "What? Oh my God, can I come over? Is there anything I can do?" Before I could respond, I heard my mother's voice call for me, low and shaky. I had to put away the thoughts of Lena for now. My family needed all of my attention. "I can't talk right now. I'll call you back," I managed, ending the call abruptly. I placed my phone on the counter, feeling the weight of that conversation slipping away just as I heard my mother's voice waver once more, small and fragile, and then came the loudest shatter, the sound of a window breaking from the other side of the house. "What was that?" My brother's eyes widened, darting toward the hallway that led out of sight. In an instant, every fear I had been harboring took form, swirling in my chest like a tempest. What else could go wrong? What kind of storm was brewing in the recesses of my family? I didn't have answers, only a heart that felt as if it was being pulled in too many directions, caught between a world unraveling and a newfound connection that felt more precious than ever. A life-changing friendship teetered on the brink of existence, fragile like the glass of water I had just handed to my mother. It could either nurture or shatter. "Stay here," I said to my brother, my voice firm yet uncertain. "I'll check it out." "Wait. I'm coming with you," he insisted, and as we moved toward the noise, I couldn't shake the chill crawling down my spine. Behind us, a promise hung unfulfilled in the air, heavy with unspoken words and uncharted paths. Whatever awaited beyond that doorway, I sensed, would shape the story of who we were becoming, of families shattered and rebuilt, of friendships blossoming from the ashes of fear. And as I reached out to touch the doorknob, I felt a surge of both fear and hope. No matter what awaited, nothing could fully prepare me for the revelation yet to come. I pushed the door open and stepped into the darkened hallway, my brother right behind me. The faint smell of broken glass hung in the air, a bitter reminder of the chaos lurking just beneath the surface of our lives. Part of me longed to retreat back to my mother's side, the warmth of her fragile presence shielding me from the unknown, but the echo of that shattering window tugged at something instinctual, igniting a spark of courage in my chest. The hallway felt longer than I remembered, shadows dancing along the walls as we crept forward cautiously. My heart raced, each beat amplifying the anxiety that weighed upon me. "What do you think it was?" my brother muttered, his voice carrying a tremor that mirrored my own unease. "Maybe an animal?" I offered weakly, but the dull thud of worry coiling in my stomach clashed against the flimsy hope I tried to muster. I took a deep breath and moved toward the kitchen, where the noise had originated. In the gloom, I caught sight of something glinting, shards of glass, scattered like shards of our life, splintered and unrepaired. But as I stepped closer, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I squinted through the dimness and saw a figure crouched by the patio window, a thin silhouette silhouetted against the fragile light of the fading day. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice louder than I intended, echoing down the corridor. The figure froze, then swung around to face me, eyes wide with panic. In that moment, a jolt of recognition hit me like a wave. Max? His name escaped my lips before I could rein in my surprise. Max was a kid from down the street, often lost in his own world. We rarely spoke, and when we did, it was an awkward exchange filled with stuttering introductions. But seeing him here, at this moment, felt like a misalignment of fate. "What are you doing here?" my brother demanded, stepping beside me as if drawn by my astonishment. "Two didn't mean to break in. I saw something happening in your yard, and I thought, I was worried," he stammered, his gaze darting anxiously between us. The fear brimming in his eyes reminded me of my own, the shared panic becoming a strange bond in this moment of upheaval. "What did you see?" I asked, stepping forward, suddenly feeling the weight of this unexpected tension. "There was a guy in a hoodie. He was acting weird around your mom's car," Max explained, his voice trembling slightly. "I thought he might hurt someone. Then, when I went to see what was going on, he swung a rock at me and ran. I didn't mean to throw it back at him, I just panicked." The world around us constricted, reality blending with new fears. "You mean he was outside, watching my mom?" My stomach twisted painfully at the thought. My mother couldn't handle any more stress, we had to protect her, and now I felt a flicker of something igniting within me, a purpose born from this disquiet. My brother crossed his arms, a scowl deepening on his face. "You should have called the cops, Max. What the hell were you thinking? Can we please just focus?" I interrupted, desperate to redirect our spiraling thoughts. "Do you know which way he went?" Max shook his head, guilt and fright blending in his expression. "No, he just disappeared. I thought about waiting for you guys, but then I saw how upset your mom looked, and I felt the exhaustion pulling at my heart yet again." Max was offering a lifeline, even if it was marred by mishaps and misjudgments. "Thank you for coming here," I said at last, mustering a sense of gratitude amid my anxiety. "I know things are chaotic right now, but we could use your help." As my brother stared at me in disbelief, I saw the flicker of uncertainty cross his face. "What's he going to do?" "He's not even part of our family," he whispered, but the strength in my conviction softened his words into nothingness. "Maybe he's right, though," I replied, surprising even myself. "We need to be vigilant. This is our chance to stand together." Max looked startled by my willingness to include him, as if he hadn't expected kindness from those he viewed as strangers. "Really? I mean, sure, I can help. I can check things out." Before I could react or voice another thought, just behind us, the living room door opened slightly. I turned, the faint silhouette of my mother standing framed in the uncertainty of the corridor feeling surreal. Is everything okay? I heard voices, she said, her voice wavering. The sight of her brought forth a wave of protectiveness. I couldn't bear to feel helpless again. Mom, we're just checking on something. You should sit down. As her gaze wavered between us, uncertainty flickering behind her tired eyes, I felt a rush of fierce resolve. I wasn't about to let fear overpower our fight to protect our family. Stay here, I insisted gently. The paralysis that had gripped me earlier began to dissipate. There was something to fight for now. I turned away from her, but not without catching the gleam of the shattered window, lingering feelings of uncharted paths mingling with the swirling thoughts in my mind. The chaos that had enveloped us had somehow morphed into a chance for unexpected alliances and newfound courage. Let's go. We'll figure this out together, I said, glancing between my brother and Max as we edged toward the door. But before we could even take the first step, the phone rang again from the counter, its harsh sound cutting through the tension. I froze, a chill running down my spine. Something told me that this time, it wouldn't be just a friendly voice on the other end. As I made my way back toward the kitchen, I felt a whirl of emotions, each one a reminder that everything was tethered by a hair's breadth. What awaited me was beyond the threshold of this uncertainty. It could be either salvation or the embodiment of our nightmares, stretching the boundaries of friendship and the fragility of family further than I had ever imagined. And in that precarious shift, I could only pray for clarity, but all I truly had was hope steeped in shadows. When I answered the phone, my heart twisted at the sight of Lena's name lighting up the screen. Lena? I breathed, trying to steady my voice. The familiar comfort of her presence felt like a soothing balm against the chaos around me. Is everything all right? Alex, I just heard what happened. Max said your mom collapsed. I'm so sorry. Do you want me to come over? Her voice was laced with concern, cutting through the storm of my anxieties and fears, urging me to hold on to hope. No, it's fine. I mean, she's okay now, I replied, wanting to believe my own words. There was just a situation with a stranger outside. Some weird guy was lurking around. I felt the weight of that worry creeping back in, but as I spoke, I could sense her listening intently, her presence warming the edges of my fraying sanity. That I can't just do nothing when you're going through this, she insisted gently. You shouldn't have to face all of this alone. There was something in her tone that anchored me, an unwavering strength that whispered of solidarity. Lena, I hesitated, battling the vulnerability that surged to the surface. It'll be fine. This is hard enough without dragging you into my family's mess, Alex, she said, her voice sharp like a blade slicing through my defenses. You're not dragging me anywhere. I want to be there for you, if you let me. That's what friends do, right? At that moment, a release of pent-up emotion surged forth, a truth I had been cultivating but afraid to say. I'm terrified, Lena. My mom is struggling, and I don't know how to help her or even if I can. Silence hung between us, heavy with the gravity of my confession, yet in that moment, I felt an enormous weight begin to lift. I was sharing my truth. I know it's tough. But you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. And you don't have to face this alone. None of us should, she urged, her voice a lifeline extended across the chaos. As we spoke, I noticed my brother at the doorway, a question in his eyes, as he caught half of my conversation. I motioned for him to join me. Lena's on the phone. She's worried about Mom. He came closer, his expression shifting from anxiety to a gentle smile as he heard her voice. Just hearing her talk about her unwavering support seemed to calm the storm in his features too. Ask her to come over, he mouthed, and I felt a surge of agreement. Lena, please come, I said, emboldened by my brother's encouragement. Having you here would mean everything. I'll be right there, she replied, her voice firm, unwavering. A warmth enveloped me. It felt like the first rays of sunlight breaking through endless clouds. I hung up and turned to my brother, feeling the shift in our connect. I own a new understanding blooming amidst the fear. Thank you for being supportive, I said, my voice raw with emotion. I know this isn't easy. But he merely shrugged, his eyes shining with a determination that matched mine. We're family. We'll face this together. Moments later, the front door opened, and there stood Lena, her presence grounding the chaos swirling around us. She glanced at my mother, then turned her fierce emerald eyes upon me and my brother, with a conviction that felt like an unspoken promise to protect us in this tempest. "Hey," she greeted softly, weaving into the fabric of our tumultuous evening. "How is everything?" There was something almost sacred in the way she stepped into our lives, bridging the gap between turmoil and hope. I caught my mother's gaze rest on Lena too, curiosity mingling with uncertainty, but there a flicker of warmth igniting in that atmosphere of chaos. "Mom, this is Lena." "She's been a really good friend," I said, my heart surging as I spoke the words. I could feel my brother beside me, reinforcing my unspoken plea for acceptance in the truth of our tangled lives. "Hello, Mrs. Parker," Lena said gently, her voice coaxing the heaviness away. "I'm really sorry to hear you've been feeling unwell." My mother managed a weak smile, something softening behind her tired eyes as she met Lena's sincere gaze. "Thank you, dear." As the conversation began to weave between us like colorful threads, I felt the walls of apprehension begin to dissolve. Me, mother, my brother, and Lena forming a circle of unspoken solidarity. It was as if our edges were blending, the fragility of life intertwining with the blooming potential of connection, teaching me that vulnerability could lead to healing instead of despair. But then, mere minutes into our conversation, the sound of the doorbell punctured the air, slicing through the fragile moment. My heart raced again as I glanced at my brother, dread pooling in my stomach. Who could it be? Could it be the stranger again? "I'll get it," I said abruptly, squeezing Lena's hand for courage before pulling away and making my way to the front door. My mind raced, my heart pounding in rhythm with my footsteps. When I opened the door, I was struck by the figure standing before Miss Simeon I had least expected. "Amanda. What do you want?" I asked, my apprehension palpable, pulling my defenses up like a shield. Did she come to gloat, to tear down the fragile understanding we'd begun to build? She stammered, a hint of vulnerability creeping into her demeanor. "I wanted to see if your mom was okay." Surprise jolted through me. There was a sincerity in her tone, a sliver of humanity buried beneath all the layers of her past cruelty, unearthing an unexpected opportunity. In that moment, I realized something profound. It was possible, even in the wreckage of our lives, for empathy to seep through hatred. "She's okay," I replied cautiously, glimpsing my brother and Lena watching from behind me, their expressions a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Can I come in?" Amanda asked, pressing her lips together. I saw a flicker of regret in her eyes. It was a haunting echo of understanding that perhaps she recognized her role and the pain I'd endured. Faced with this choice, I hesitated and then nodded, feeling as if the ground beneath us shifted. As I stepped aside, I felt the strain of shadows turn into light as Amanda entered our home. The room went silent, an air of shared expectancy filling the space as Amanda faced Lena and my brother. What could have been an explosive confrontation transformed before my eyes. Instead, the walls of our struggles began to bend, weaving a thread of connection that carried hope into the room. "I'm sorry," Amanda said suddenly, her voice raw and unguarded. "For everything. I've been a jerk, and I know it. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." My breath caught in my throat as I watched Lena's eyes widen, disbelief etched across her face. But then, I saw the warmth of compassion bloom in her gaze instead of anger. "A choice made to build bridges instead of walls. That takes a lot to say," Lena replied, her voice steady. "It's not easy to admit mistakes. Maybe forgiveness had its own fragile strength," I thought, realizing that it wasn't just me holding on to this journey. It was a collective step toward healing and understanding. "Thank you," I found myself saying, surprised by the reassurance spilling from my heart. "It means more than you know." That I turned back to my mom, who had taken in this unexpected revelation with an air of cautious acceptance. Perhaps moments of horror could become moments of redemption if we allowed them to unfold. The heaviness of that unspoken bond between us began to disperse, the shadows that once towered over our home slowly becoming lighter as we moved into uncharted territories. With Amanda standing there, the fabric of our shared experiences began to weave tighter threads of connection, an intricate tapestry that blended both healing and the promise of a new beginning. As we settled into our shared identities, family amidst friends and broken pieces slowly regaining shape, I felt a swell of warmth in my chest. The storm that had threatened to dissolve us created a unique mosaic of authenticity, vulnerability, and hope. In that moment, as the darkness lifted, the truth began to sprout from the ashes of chaos. forgiveness, connection, and the bonds of friendship had become the roots from which we could grow anew. Can we slay our dragons together? I found myself asking, stealing a glance at each of them, including Amanda. Absolutely, Lena responded, her eyes shining bright, a fierce alliance forming under the glow of that newfound togetherness. No matter what happens, my brother added solemnly, we face this as a family. As I looked around at their faces, my heart felt fuller than it had in a long time. And I realized that even in the darkest moments, the connection we forge can summon light from the deepest shadows. There, surrounded by the remnants of our tangled threads, I understood that it's amidst the chaos where we could find a home built with compassion, understanding, and the kind of love that wraps around you even in the most turbulent times. And in that moment of clarity, as I breathed in the scent of peach blossoms wafting in from the shattered window, I vowed, we'll make it through this together. The evening stretched on, the air filled with the tentative laughter of new beginnings and the stirring embers of connection. The final note in our symphony of hope rang clear, echoing through the hearts of every soul present. It's never too late to rise from the ashes and cultivate a vibrant garden of love and forgiveness, and as long as we stand together, we can weather any storm. Because sometimes, home is found not in perfect circumstances, but in the messy, beautiful bonds we embrace along the way.